armed protesters in Texas wanted to confront Muslim mosque goers with their weapons. Let's take a quick look at the video, and I'll give you some details on who they are and why they're doing this.
Trump said he wants Cruz as his vice. Did he say that?
All right, so again, this is in Texas, and the organization that's protesting this mosque with their weapons is known as the Stop the Islamization of America is the name of the organization. And they went to the Islamic Center of Irving to protest them. Now, obviously they did it in an intimidating way. They're carrying these huge weapons and they're trying to make a point. In fact, when asked by the news why his group was armed, organizer David Wright said the weapons were mostly for self-protection. Protection from what? You guys are going over there with your weapons. Then he added, but I'm not going to lie. We do want to show force. We're not sitting ducks.
Yeah, but you see, the other side doesn't have weapons.
Okay. And the other side's not showing force. They're not doing anything wrong. They're just normal Muslims going to the mosque that they pray at, and that's it.
So this is the same Irving, Texas, where the young kid brought in a clock and everybody flipped out, thought it was a bomb. They had the kid handcuffed, arrested, etc. Right? And then some people here in America supported that move, like Bill Maher, thought it was a nice move of caution by the part of the authorities in Irving, Texas. I mean, he's a Muslim kid, and if a Muslim kid brings in a clock that doesn't look like a clock, I mean, you never know, right? Better safe than sorry. And so these guys show up with weapons to a mosque. Well, does the mosque have any weapons? First of all, they'd have every right to have a weapon. It's Texas, right? And they're American citizens just like the other guys. They'd have all the right in the world, but they don't have any weapons. But hey, better safe than sorry. You know how Muslims are. They have an ideology of Islam that is so dangerous. Now, Bill Maher and others didn't say all Muslims. But somehow, the guys that showed up with weapons thought all Muslims. Golly gee, they lost that distinction. Because I thought that they had gotten all the intellectual points about you don't want to profile Muslims, Anna. You want to do anti-profiling of people who don't look Muslim, okay? See, when you do that intellectual distinction, okay, yeah, by the way, one of the dumbest points ever, okay, anti-profiling. So imagine a room with kids with brown eyes and blue eyes. He said, I'm not profiling kids with brown eyes. I'm just anti-profiling the kids with blue eyes. Wow, that's really smart. Okay, so, but somehow all those really clever little tricks were lost on the people who showed up with weaponry, okay? So now, if those idiots had showed up when there was an actual hostilities, okay, yes. When they're firing, those are the bad guys. Those are the bad guys. I know it's really hard because pseudo-intellectuals don't do nuance, right? So they think, I don't know, don't they all? Not all. Most, some. Don't they all believe the same thing? I can't tell, right? Yeah. See, the ones that are doing the killings are the bad guys, right? The ones sitting peacefully at a mosque in Irving, Texas are not bad guys. They didn't kill anyone. You shouldn't show up at their doorstep with heavy artillery.
Yeah. Well, look, this story is obviously very different, but there's a similar theme. It made me think of George Zimmerman and how, he's the one who provoked Trayvon Martin. So thankfully, thank God, in this situation, these guys weren't able to provoke any type of violent interaction. Cops showed up immediately. They talked to the members of the mosque and they told them, look, whatever you do, don't interact, ignore them. We just don't want more trouble. And that's what they did. And so it didn't escalate into a violent situation. But it reminded me of the Trayvon Martin story because George Zimmerman was the one who was out looking for trouble. He was the one stalking this innocent black kid who was just walking through a neighborhood completely unarmed, not causing any trouble whatsoever. So in this case, the perceived threat is the Muslims, and so we have to provoke them with our weapons. In the George Zimmerman case, the perceived threat was the black kid, and he provoked him with the weapons. Thankfully, this case didn't end up in violence.
Look at the dangers that stereotypes create, right? So in the case of Trayvon Martin, the cops show up, there's a dead kid on the ground, and even though he was killed and he had no weapon on him, they do a toxicology report on him. They do a criminal background check on him, not the guy who shot him. Because they look at it and go, it's a black kid, we make sure you profile him, right?
Right.
Okay, or maybe anti-profile him, I'm not sure. Okay, so now in this case, if, God forbid, one of the guys who were Muslim in that mosque showed up because he's from Texas and said, well, I want to defend myself. You know how Texans are, right?
Right.
And showed up with a gun, which he has every right to, and then they opened fire on him. Who do you think they do the toxicology report on, the criminal background check on, right? To Anna's point, you antagonize,
Right.
you show up with a show of force. Because one of the things they want to have people do, these guys in particular, is they want you to know your role. You don't get to have a weapon in Texas if you're Muslim. Now, that should be your Second Amendment rights that they theoretically are totally in favor of, right? But you don't get to have one. I get to have one. And I get to use show of force. And I get to intimidate you. Know your role, boy. Okay? So now, what are you supposed to do? The cops are right. You can't tell the Muslims, okay, you have a right to, you have your Second Amendment rights too. You can also show force. Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, okay? It's a really bad idea. But then the guys who are purposely jerks, again, these specific guys, right? They win because they get to intimidate you because they have the weapons and they get to bully you. If, God forbid, you were to do likewise, I mean, imagine the massacre that breaks out.